Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I've been doing a lot of videos recently talking about kind of my collecting strategy, and in the comments I've been getting questions from viewers. So I wanted to answer one of those viewer questions today. So Rob 9874 asked me, do you pay up for 10s of your childhood heroes from the 80s, or do you settle for 9s and put money away for vintage? So to answer that question, it's somewhat complex. So I kind of want to walk through it with you guys. So when I think about buying cards, when I think about my 80s Heroes cards, again, those cards to me are very nostalgic because those are the guys that I saw play, right? I love picking up Mickey Mantle cards or, Hank Aaron cards or Clemente cards or even Ruth cards or even older stuff than that, DiMaggio, Musial. I love those guys, but I never saw them play, right? I've seen videos of them play, but I never saw them actually play like live. So for me, the 80s stuff is very nostalgic. So I am willing to probably spend more on that than I normally would, kind of logically, based on how my collecting strategy is set up. Let's kind of get into the details, kind of the specifics of how I think about it. So let's start with this one. The 89 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. This card is so iconic to me that I was willing to pay up for the 10. Typically, cards from the 80s that are at this price point, I usually would kind of lean towards a 9. But since to me, this is one of the most iconic cards in the hobby, it's definitely the most iconic modern card in baseball hobby. The only card I think that maybe rivals at modern is the 86 Fleer Jordan rookie. But so this one I picked up in the 10 because it's just so iconic. But at the same time, when I think about kind of the players I loved watching when I was a kid, this next player was probably my favorite player until I was maybe 10 years old, and it's Don Mattingly. So this card to me was very nostalgic. This was my kind of first chase card when I was a kid. Like I was begging my parents for it. When family members asked me what I wanted for my birthday, this is what I would ask for. And I finally was able to pick one up. This isn't the same one. That one's in my parents' house somewhere. I got to find it. But I was willing to buy this one in the 10 when I got back into collecting because it was so meaningful and so nostalgic for me as a kid. Plus, I was lucky and picked it up before the boom in 2000, so I got it for a more reasonable price. So that one I picked up in the 10. Now, at the same time, this card could be considered kind of even more important Mattingly rookie is Donruss. I picked this one up in the 9 because I really like the card. I think it's nostalgic. I think it's an important card in the hobby. But when I was a kid, this wasn't the card I was chasing. So I didn't really want to spend the money for a 10, and the 9 was much less expensive, a lot more affordable. So I went with the 9 on this one. So, based on those cards, to me, it's nostalgia, importance to the hobby, and just honestly what I like, right? So the next one is my current big collector, right? It's Nolan Ryan. I have all of his playing days Topps cards. This is his 81. I have his 81 Topps, or his 94, all in 10s. And then I have 9s and a couple 8.5s for some earlier cards. But this one I picked up in the 10, and all the ones after this I picked up in the 10 with one exception. And that's this guy, the 86. So all the Ryan cards, I think, were fairly reasonable at the time I bought them, including from the 81 on in the 10. Now, this one is a lot more expensive. It's still very expensive in the 10. The 9's not terrible. The 10, because of that black border on top, is really, really hard to find. And they are quite expensive. I think it's probably 10 to 15 times as expensive to get the 10 as it is to get the 9. So I bought the 9 in this. That's not saying that I have a goal at some point potentially to pick up the 10, but at the time I bought it and based on my budget, I went with the 9. So, as I think about this, as I show these cards and talk about it, I think, Rob, the key for me is what's my budget and how badly do I want the card? And if I truly love the card, I'll go with it in a higher grade. If that's tough to do or impossible to do, then I won't do it. So for the example, this next one, love Rickey Henderson. I think he's one of the greatest baseball players of all time. Have his rookie card in the 9. In the 10, this thing is, I don't know, 50, 100,000. I don't even know how much it costs, but way out of my price range. So in certain cases with some modern cards, getting the 10 is basically not financially feasible. So I go with the 9. And then I've got players, for example, like Roger Clemens. Loved watching him pitch as a kid. A little tainted by the steroid stuff, but still think he's awesome. His cards, I think, are pretty pricey, to be honest with you, for, you know, being 80s junk wax cards. So I have his Fleer rookie here. This is in the 9 with a print mark on it. So, or print defect. And I think that's right here on the back. You could see, it's glare off, but you can see right here, this white, that's not actually paper loss. It just didn't print correctly. So it's a 9 with a print defect. Again, love Clemens, but I didn't want to spend, at the time, 4 figures on his rookie card. So I picked this one up. It's a great looking card on the front. It looks like a 10 on the front, and the back's a little, obviously with the print defects, a little off. But, you know, that's kind of how, that was kind of my logic on that. Like Clemens, he wasn't one of my top 10 favorite players growing up as a kid, but he's awesome. I think he's, you know, big impact to baseball, amazing pitcher, obviously the steroid stuff, but, you know, let's not get into that. So went with that card in the 9 print defect. So that was actually kind of nice because the print defect's on the back. So I bought a card that basically looks perfect on the front when it's on display, but on the back, you know, there's a little bit of an issue. It's kind of like when you buy a T206 card that's got paper loss on the back. So it looks great on the front, back looks bad, put it on display. Everybody thinks you have this beautiful card that was way undergraded. You know, that's a good way to, you know, get a good return on investment on that stuff. And then these next 2 cards, these were both cards I loved as a kid, and I would love to actually have them in 10s, the Wade Boggs rookie and the Tony Gwynn rookie, have them both in 9s. Love both of those cards, but, you know, kind of going to the second part of that question that you asked, do I want to settle for a 9 and put the money towards vintage stuff? Yes, in those 2 cases. Their 10s are quite a bit more expensive than the 9s, so I opted for the 9s in those, and then put the difference towards, you know, something for my vintage collection. So I know my answer is kind of jumping all over the place, but it's kind of the way my you know, I think about this stuff, right? Is how badly do I want the card? How iconic is the card? Do I truly love the card? Do I just really like the card? All of that kind of comes into play. So for me, I would say net, budget is the most important piece as to whether or not I get a 9 or 10. And then second is, do I truly love the card, or do I just really like it a lot? And that'll drive my decision. Now, in some cases, like the 86 Nolan Ryan, I'm planning to pick up a 10. I just need to wait until the budget aligns, right? But some of these other ones, like the Gwynn and the Boggs, I'll probably just keep as 9s and be super content and happy with those. And obviously, like the Ricky Henderson, no chance I'm getting a 10 in that. It's just way too expensive. So I hope that answers your question, Rob. Definitely feel like I rambled a little bit, but I wanted to kind of hit on all the points that I was thinking, and my best way to do that is to ramble a bit. So hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, please subscribe if you're not subscribed. If you are subscribed, I appreciate your subscription. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.